Hi there, I'm Professor Jason Monty, and I'm a mechanical engineer and fluid dynamicist. I'm just making this little video because some people have shown some interest in these silly little cartoons that I've drawn, which are a pictorial demonstration of what we've learnt following some case studies we've done on airflow around different types of buildings. The first one I want to show you is one we've seen at hospitals and also in our university buildings, where the scenario is you have inlet ducts in a room and a exhaust in the hallway. Now, if you have a good, well-functioning ventilation system, it will mix the air really well inside the room. The problem is that the air must then find its way to the exhaust point. So air must get from an inlet to an exhaust somehow. Now, even if the door is closed, this must still happen, and the infection will follow that path. The problem we've found is that even when you have the door closed, the air will find sometimes complex and surprising ways to get back to that exhaust, through cracks around the door, through ceiling panels, through light fixtures, etc. And of course, if you have all the rooms with infection in them, all of them are feeding air out into the hallway and through the exhaust. So one way to fix this, as we've said a number of times now, is to have air purifiers installed. So these are just domestic air scrubbers that would dramatically reduce the amount of aerosol in a room. We've proven this, and can do this very quickly. And then, of course, you have a much cleaner situation both in the rooms and in the hallway. And this is, of course, preferable to this kind of scenario. Knowing the air path as well can help with knowing where to put people. And this is a fairly simple scenario where you would not want to put somebody near the exhaust. If they're monitoring this hallway, you would put them at the other end. So again, this is a simple scenario, but you could have much more complex scenarios, but it is still important to understand where the air is going so you don't make these kind of people placement mistakes. Now, there's a lot of interest in hotels and how that system works and how it's different to what I just showed. So in the hotel, you don't have this exhaust in the hallway. My understanding is most hotels have contained systems in each room, well, contained in the sense that they have an inlet in the room and an exhaust in the bathroom. And ideally, this would be the scenario. You mix the air in the room, keep everyone comfortable, and then all the air goes out the exhaust. And if every room worked this way, then it would be great. But unfortunately, all those bathroom exhausts are connected. And my understanding is they're always on. And the problem that you could face is an imbalance in pressures. Now, how would that happen? Well, let's say this person had the air conditioning on really high because they're really hot or really cold, and this person maybe isn't feeling well and has their ventilation off. In that scenario, with a constant exhaust in the bathroom, you would have too much airflow to get out that exhaust, and some of the air is going to have to find another way, and that could potentially be through this pathway. So somehow it will have to find its way to one of these other exhausts to balance out the pressures. Now, I'll be very clear, I'm not suggesting that air definitely goes from one room to another room in any specific pathway, but what I'm saying is that you can have complex airflow pathways that you need to be aware of to reduce infection. Again, use of air purifiers in this scenario would mean that air going from one room to another, if that happened, would be clean air, so we still recommend air purifiers in the room for any scenario. Last point, I hear a lot that ventilation audits and mechanical ventilation improvements would reduce the risk of aerosol transmission. Yes, it will reduce risk in some ways, but the problem is that airborne transmission is a local phenomenon. That means it matters where the air goes after it comes out from an inlet. If air is going from an inlet past an infected person and then onto a susceptible person, then they will get infected, regardless of whether the air coming through that ventilation system is fresh air or whether it's well filtered or higher flow rates. It doesn't matter. So that's why I say airborne transmission is a local phenomenon, and we need local solutions such as air purifiers or management of where people are. But to do that, you need to know air purifiers can be used immediately, but to understand air pathways requires investment in measuring where the air goes in the realistic scenarios. Thanks for your time.